First contact reversal. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless in her quantum laboratory aboard the Ganymede research station, staring at readings that shouldn't exist. The quantum entanglement array she'd spent 5 years developing was showing patterns that defied everything she understood about physics. Waves of blue light pulsed through the crystalline structure at its center, casting strange shadows across her face. "Computer, run Diagnostic Series 7 again," she commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The holographic displays swimming around her head flickered and reformed, showing the same impossible results. That's when she noticed it, the subtle distortion in the air near her main workbench. At first, she thought it was heat shimmer from her equipment, but the distortion was growing, taking on depth and substance. The quantum array's pulses synchronized with the anomaly's expansion, their frequencies matching in perfect harmony. "Emergency shutdown. Authorization, Chen Alpha 09. She called out, but the computer remained silent. The laboratory's systems were completely unresponsive, locked in some kind of feedback loop with the growing phenomenon. The distortion suddenly crystallized into a perfect sphere of what looked like liquid starlight, about 2 meters in diameter. Sarah's scientific training warred with her survival instincts as she found herself drawn closer to examine it. Her instruments were recording everything, but she couldn't take her eyes off the sphere long enough to check the readings. A figure emerged from the sphere, tall, elegant, and definitely not human. Its body seemed to be composed of overlapping plates of some iridescent material, and its 4 eyes studied her with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. "Impossible," the being spoke, its voice resonating directly in her mind. "You are impossible." Sarah took an involuntary step backward. I was about to say the same thing. The being moved forward with liquid grace, its head tilting at an angle that seemed both curious and concerned. "Your species was supposed to be extinct. The Great Silence has persisted for over 3,000 cycles. Yet here you stand, human, conducting experiments that breach the walls between realities." Extinct. Sarah's mind reeled at the implications. "I don't understand. We have colonies across the solar system. Earth is gone," the being finished. "Or rather, it will be. The temporal signatures are quite clear. You exist in what we call a pocket timeline, a fold in space-time that preserved a small portion of humanity after the catastrophe." Sarah's legs felt weak, and she gripped the edge of her workbench for support. "What catastrophe? When?" "That is a complex question, Dr. Chen." The being somehow knew her name. "I am Nexus Guide Tarlin of the Collective Worlds. And you, through what I suspect was an accident of quantum mechanics, have just made first contact with the wider galaxy. Though from our perspective, humanity made contact with us thousands of cycles ago, before their fall." Sarah's scientific mind began to process the implications, pushing aside her initial shock. "A temporal paradox. My experiments with quantum entanglement somehow connected with your time. Close, but not quite." Tarlin moved to examine her quantum array. "Your experiments created a bridge across probability space. This facility, this pocket of human civilization, exists in what might be called a probability shadow, a timeline that branched away from the main flow of events just before the catastrophe. We thought all such shadows had collapsed long ago. How many humans survived in your timeline?" Sarah asked, dreading the answer. "None." Tarlin's mental voice carried genuine sadness. "But their legacy changed the galaxy forever. Human beings had a unique gift, an ability to see possibilities where other species saw only walls. They shared their knowledge freely, perhaps too freely. The technologies they introduced reshaped civilization as we knew it." Sarah's mind was already racing ahead. "And some of those technologies caused this catastrophe you mentioned." "Yes and no." Tarlin turned all 4 eyes back to her. "The truth is far more complex and far more relevant to your current situation than you might imagine. You see, Dr. Chen, you are not just a survivor. You are a carrier. A carrier Of what? Information. Knowledge. The quantum patterns in your brain. They match configurations we've only seen in ancient human databases. Somehow, whether by design or cosmic accident, you carry within you encrypted data from humanity's final days. Data that was supposed to have been lost forever. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she looked at her quantum array with new eyes. Had her drive to push the boundaries of physics been entirely her own? Or had she been unconsciously guided by information hidden in her very neurons? The question now, Tarlin continued, is what we do with this discovery. The galaxy is a very different place than it was 3,000 cycles ago. There are those who would kill to prevent human knowledge from resurging, others who would sacrifice worlds to obtain it, and somewhere out there, the force that caused the catastrophe still waits, watching for signs that humanity might rise again. Sarah straightened her back, years of scientific training and human determination coming to the fore. Then we need to understand exactly what's locked away in my mind, don't we? Because whatever caused this catastrophe, whatever's waiting out there, humanity faced it once before. And this time, we might have the advantage of preparation. Tarlin's mental voice carried a note of approval, spoken like a true human. But first, we need to get you to safety. Your quantum experiment didn't just create a bridge. It sent up a flare that every advanced civilization in the galaxy will have detected. They'll be coming, Dr. Chen, and not all of them will be as pleased to find living humans as I am. As if in response to Tarlin's warning, alarms began to blare throughout the Ganymede research station. Sarah's computer screens filled with warnings of multiple unidentified objects decelerating into the solar system. The first contact humanity had prepared for over centuries had finally arrived, but not in any way they could have predicted. And Sarah Chen, quantum physicist and accidental keeper of humanity's last secrets, would have to decide how much of Earth's legacy she was willing to risk unleashing upon the galaxy once again. The protocol awakens. The crystalline walls of the collective world's diplomatic vessel hummed with an energy that Sarah could feel in her bones. Outside the observation window, Jupiter's massive form slowly rotated, while the Ganymede research station, her home for the past 5 years, dwindled to a bright speck against the gas giant's swirling storms. They're calling it the Chen Protocol, Tarlin said, appearing silently beside her. The emergency measures enacted when a living human is discovered. Sarah turned from the window, studying her alien companion's iridescent form. In the 12 hours since their first meeting, she'd begun to read subtle variations in the patterns that rippled across Tarlin's plated body. Current configuration suggested concern, maybe even worry. You still haven't told me who they are, she said, or why my existence triggers emergency protocols across the galaxy. The Collective Worlds Council is complicated. Tarlin's mental voice carried undertones of political frustration. Imagine 12 distinct species, each with their own agenda, trying to maintain balance in a galaxy still shaped by human innovations they don't fully understand. A holographic display materialized between them, showing a 3-dimensional map of known space. Thousands of stars lit up in different colors, forming a complex web of political boundaries and trade routes. Before the catastrophe, Tarlin continued, humanity spread their technology freely, faster than light travel, quantum computing, consciousness transfer, gifts that transformed every civilization they encountered. But they also created safeguards, encoded failsafes into their most powerful innovations. Sarah watched as certain points on the map pulsed with familiar blue light, the same frequency she'd observed in her quantum array. The encrypted data in my mind, it's connected to these safeguards. We believe so. Your quantum experiments weren't random, Dr. Chen. They followed patterns we've only seen in ancient human security systems, systems that have remained dormant for 3,000 cycles, waiting for the right key. A new alert flashed across the holographic display. 3 vessels had just emerged from FTL travel near Saturn's orbit. Their design was radically different from the elegant curves of the collective ship, all sharp angles and aggressive lines. The Vrex Dominion, Tarlin's mental voice darkened. They were once humanity's closest allies. Now they're archaeological pirates, obsessed with claiming lost human technologies. They believe they're the rightful inheritors of Earth's legacy. And they're here for me. Sarah watched the vessels approach with growing unease. You, and whatever knowledge you carry. Tarlin gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show internal scans of Sarah's brain. Complex quantum patterns danced through her neural pathways, forming structures that seemed to defy normal biology. "This is impossible," Sarah whispered, watching her own thoughts light up in alien geometries. "How could I not know this was inside me?" "The human mind is uniquely adaptable," Tarlin explained. "Your species could encode vast amounts of data into their neural structures without conscious awareness. It was one of your most closely guarded secrets, and one of the many reasons the Vrex are so interested in obtaining a living human." The ship's ambient hum changed pitch, and new alerts flashed across the display. The Vrex vessels were hailing them. "We need to begin the awakening process," Tarlin said urgently. "Whatever humanity locked away in your mind, we need access to it before." The diplomatic vessel shuddered violently. Warning signals blared as multiple energy signatures locked onto their position. "Vrex targeting systems," Tarlin's mental voice was grim. "They're not here to negotiate." Sarah's head suddenly exploded with pain. The quantum patterns in her brain were responding to the threat, activating dormant neural pathways. Information flooded her consciousness. Technical specifications, security protocols, coordinates to hidden facilities across the galaxy. "The fail-safes," she gasped through the pain. "They're awakening on their own." "Impossible." Tarlin moved to support her as she stumbled. "The protocols should only activate under specific conditions. Unless," Sarah's voice was strained but certain, "humanity knew this might happen. Knew someone might try to force the information from a carrier's mind." The pain subsided, replaced by a strange clarity. Sarah stood straight, her eyes now holding knowledge from two different eras of human history. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of centuries. "Security Protocol Alpha 90, authorization, Chen genetic sequence confirmed. Initiating emergency response network." Throughout the ship, systems began responding to her voice. The crystalline walls pulsed with new energy as ancient human programming awakened within the collective vessel's quantum core. Outside, the approaching Vrex ships suddenly lost power, their engines going dark. By the first light, Tarlin's mental voice was filled with awe. The human systems, they're still active, still connected. All this time. "Not just connected," Sarah said, watching through the observation window as her commands rippled through space. "Waiting. Humanity didn't just leave behind technology, did they? They left behind a plan. And I think I'm starting to understand why." In the distance, Jupiter's storms seemed to intensify, responding to energies that hadn't been unleashed since Earth still existed. The game of cat and mouse was over. The real race, to uncover humanity's final purpose, had begun. Stars of yesterday. The massive archive chamber deep within the collective world's facility on Europa felt both alien and strangely familiar to Sarah. Ancient human technology seamlessly integrated with alien architecture, creating a space that bridged 3,000 cycles of galactic history. Holographic displays filled the air around her, each showing a different system activating across the stars. "Another defense grid just came online in the Carina sector," she announced, watching as blue light spread through the galactic map like veins awakening. "That makes 17 in the past 6 hours." Tarlin moved between the displays, their crystalline form reflecting the holographic light. The scale of it. Even after studying human artifacts for centuries, we never imagined the network was this extensive, or this coordinated, added First Speaker Ven, the highest-ranking member of the Collective Worlds Council currently in the Sol system. The avian alien's feathers rippled with iridescent patterns that matched the holographic displays. The question remains, coordinated for what purpose? Sarah's newly awakened knowledge provided pieces of the answer, but they were fragmented, incomplete. The protocols keep referencing something called the echo. Does that mean anything to you? Both aliens went still. The ambient light in the chamber dimmed slightly, as if responding to their unease. The echo, Ven's voice was barely above a whisper, is what we call the force that caused the catastrophe. The thing that came from between the stars and changed everything. New information surfaced in Sarah's mind, accompanied by a sharp pain behind her eyes. It wasn't just one thing, was it? The echo was everywhere and nowhere. It moved through subspace, infiltrating communications networks, corrupting AI systems, turning our own technology against us. Against humanity, yes, Tarlin corrected. But when Earth fell, the echo vanished. Some believe it achieved its goal and went dormant. Others think it's still out there, waiting. And now we're activating every piece of human technology we can find. Ven added, anxiety clear in their tone. If the echo is still watching. A new alert flashed across the displays. Sarah's hand moved almost unconsciously, expanding the signal. Another Vrex fleet just emerged from FTL, near the Pleiades defense grid. They're trying to disable it before it fully activates. They don't understand what they're dealing with. Tarlin's mental voice was frustrated. The Vrex think human installation, but something about their attack pattern triggered another fragment of awakened memory. Wait, she said, stepping closer to the hologram. These energy signatures, they're not just similar to human technology. They're exact copies. The Vrex ships are using human weapon systems. Impossible. Ven fluttered closer. All human military technology was supposed to have been destroyed or deactivated after the catastrophe. Unless, Tarlin's mental voice carried a dawning realization, unless the Vrex found a way to preserve it, to keep it running all this time. Sarah's mind raced ahead, connecting pieces of the puzzle. You said they were humanity's closest allies. What if they didn't just preserve the technology? What if they preserved something else? She gestured at the displays, bringing up historical records from before the catastrophe. Look at the neural patterns in my brain. The quantum signatures. Now compare them to long-range scans of the Vrex fleet. The similarities were undeniable. The same complex quantum structures that encoded information in Sarah's mind appeared in the heart of every Vrex vessel. They have their own carriers, she breathed. They've been keeping human consciousness patterns alive in their ships, using them to maintain the technology. But something's wrong with the patterns. They're degraded, corrupted. A massive surge of energy rippled through the defense grid near the Pleiades. The Vrex ships hadn't been trying to disable it. They'd been trying to interface with it, to override it with their preserved human consciousness patterns. But the grid rejected them violently. Waves of quantum disruption tore through the Vrex fleet, shutting down their systems. In the aftermath, Sarah could see the corrupted human patterns dissolving, finally released after 3,000 cycles of artificial preservation. That's why the protocols recognized me, Sarah said quietly. Why they're responding now. The Vrex have been keeping fragments of human consciousness enslaved in their systems, but the patterns are breaking down. Whatever they preserved, it's finally dying. And they want you to replace it, Tarlin concluded. A fresh human mind, uncorrupted by 3,000 cycles of artificial preservation. New alerts began flooding the displays. More Vrex fleets were emerging across the galaxy, converging on activated human installations. But beneath those tactical readings, Sarah detected something else. A subtle distortion in subspace, spreading outward from the sites of conflict. She felt a chill as another piece of knowledge surfaced in her mind. The Vrex ships aren't just failing. Their corrupted human patterns are creating ripples in subspace, the same kind of ripples that preceded the Echo's arrival. Ven's feathers stood on end. You mean, we're not just racing against the Vrex anymore, Sarah said, watching the distortions grow. We're racing against time, because everything we're doing, everything the Vrex are doing, it's attracting attention. The kind of attention that destroyed Earth once before. The chamber's lights pulsed with urgent warning patterns as new signatures appeared at the edge of detected space, signatures that matched no known species or technology. The Echo was awakening, and this time, humanity's last defender would have to face it with only fragments of her species' legacy to guide her. Memory of Earth. The quantum memory chamber aboard the collective flagship pulsed with ethereal light as Sarah floated in its center, suspended in a field of pure information. Around her, the last memories of Earth played out in crystalline clarity, memories that had been encoded into her neural pathways before she was even born. "Display date stamp," she commanded, her voice echoing strangely in the quantum field. "Earth Standard Date, August 15, 2157, 3 days before the catastrophe." The scene solidified around her. A vast underground chamber beneath the Himalayan mountains. Hundreds of scientists and military personnel moved with urgent purpose, their faces drawn with the knowledge of what was coming. They knew, Sarah whispered, watching humanity's last desperate preparations. They detected the Echo's approach and knew they couldn't stop it. But they could prepare for what came after. Tarlin's mental voice reached her through the quantum field. The alien observer watched from outside the chamber, monitoring her neural patterns. "The question is, prepare for what?" Sarah focused on a group of scientists gathered around a central console. Their conversations played out in perfect detail, preserved across 3 millennia. "The quantum encoding is stable," one scientist announced. "We can preserve approximately 2.3 exabytes of compressed data in each carrier's neural structure." "But will it be enough?" Another scientist, her name badge identifying her as Dr. Helena Chen, Sarah's ancestor, looked up from her calculations. "The Echo isn't just coming to destroy our technology. It's coming to erase our knowledge, our very understanding of the universe. Which is why we're hiding that knowledge in the one place it won't think to look." A military officer stepped forward. "In our own genetic code, passed down through generations. The Echo can corrupt our machines, but it can't rewrite human DNA." Sarah felt a surge of connection to these people, watching their last desperate gambit to preserve humanity's legacy. But something wasn't adding up. "Wait," she called out, freezing the memory. "If they knew the Echo was coming, why didn't they evacuate? Why didn't they send more people to the colonies, preserve more carriers?" The scene shifted, jumping forward in time. Now Dr. Helena Chen stood alone at her console, recording a final message. "To whoever carries our legacy, if you're accessing this memory, then our greatest gamble paid off. You survived in a probability shadow, protected from the Echo's influence, but you need to understand why we chose this path." Helena's eyes seemed to look directly at Sarah across 3,000 years of history. "The Echo isn't just an enemy. It's an inevitability. A cosmic response to species that advance too quickly, spread too far. We thought we could share our knowledge freely across the galaxy, help other civilizations leap forward centuries or millennia. We were wrong." New data flowed through the quantum field, showing the cascading effects of human technological sharing across hundreds of worlds. Every species we uplifted began attracting the Echo's attention. The faster they advanced using our technology, the stronger the Echo's response. We realized too late that we weren't just endangering ourselves. We were endangering the entire galaxy. Sarah watched as simulation after simulation played out, showing different scenarios of technological development, and the Echo's corresponding reactions. "So we devised the protocol," Helena continued, "a way to preserve our knowledge, but release it slowly, naturally, in a way that wouldn't trigger the Echo's full response. The carriers, descendants like you, Sarah, would only access the stored information when the galaxy was ready for it, when each piece of knowledge could be integrated safely. But the Vrex found a way to cheat the system." Sarah understood now. They'd preserve human consciousness patterns artificially, forced access to the technology before it was time. "And now they're drawing the Echo back," Tarlin added, "just as your ancestors predicted." The memory shifted again, showing the final hours before the catastrophe. Sarah watched as humanity activated its defense grids, not to fight the echo, but to prepare for something else, something longer term. The grid isn't just a weapon, she realized, the knowledge surfacing in her mind. It's a stabilizer, a way to regulate technological growth across the galaxy, to keep it below the echo's threshold. Helena's final message continued. The carrier who accesses this memory will face a choice. The knowledge we've preserved could advance civilization by millennia. But used too quickly, it will draw the echo's full attention. You must decide. Maintain the balance we designed, or risk everything for rapid progress. The quantum field rippled with new alerts. The Vrex fleets were continuing their desperate attacks on human installations across the galaxy. With each engagement, the subspace distortions grew stronger. The echo's presence was building. They're going to trigger a second catastrophe, Sarah said, emerging from the memory chamber. Unless what? Tarlin moved to steady her as she readjusted to normal space. Unless we give them what they want. But on our terms. Sarah's mind was racing with possibilities. The Vrex think they want human technology, but what they really need is a way to survive what's coming. What humanity planned for all along. She turned to face the observation window, where distant defense platforms orbited Europa like ancient guardians. It's time to show them what the protocol was really designed to do. Legacy Protocol. The bridge of the collective flagship blazed with emergency lights as Sarah worked at inhuman speed, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as she implemented humanity's final protocol. The knowledge flowing through her mind was no longer fragmented. It had crystallized into a clear purpose, 3,000 cycles in the making. The Vrex fleet is pushing through our outer defenses. First Speaker Ven reported, their feathers rippling with tension. They'll reach Europa within the hour. Let them come, Sarah said, not looking up from her work. Everything is proceeding exactly as humanity planned. Tarlin's mental voice carried confusion. Your ancestors couldn't have known about this specific situation. No, but they knew something like it would happen eventually. Sarah's hands moved to a new interface, activating deeper layers of the defense grid's programming. The Vrex, the echo, they're both symptoms of the same problem. The problem humanity tried to solve by appearing to destroy itself. The main view screen showed the approaching Vrex armada. Hundreds of ships built from stolen human technology, their cores pulsing with the last corrupted fragments of preserved human consciousness. Behind them, the subspace distortions grew stronger as the echo drew nearer, attracted by the massive concentration of advanced technology. The defense grid isn't just defending, Sarah explained as new patterns of energy began flowing between the platforms. It's teaching. Every installation we activated contains a piece of humanity's knowledge, encoded in a way that can only be properly understood through cooperation. She turned to face her alien allies. The Vrex tried to take human technology by force, preserving our consciousness patterns as slaves to their machines. But the protocol was designed to be shared willingly, to guide species toward working together, to show them why humanity chose to step back from the precipice of too rapid advancement. The first wave of Vrex ships entered weapons range, but instead of firing, the defense platforms began broadcasting on all frequencies, not attacks, but information. Complex quantum patterns that matched the ones in Sarah's mind, but transformed, adapted. What are you doing? Ven asked, watching as the Vrex ships slowed their approach. Giving them what they've been searching for. The truth about human technology. About why we designed it to be shared, not stolen. Sarah's voice was calm as she initiated the final sequence. The echo isn't just drawn to advanced technology. It's drawn to the conflicts that arise from technological imbalance, from species trying to dominate each other through technological superiority. The defense platform's energy patterns shifted, creating a vast network of quantum resonance. The Vrex ships found themselves caught in it, their corrupted human consciousness patterns beginning to align with the new frequencies. Humanity didn't just disappear, Sarah continued. We transformed ourselves into teachers, guides, spreading our knowledge in a way that would force cooperation, not competition. The carriers, the protocol, the defense grid, it's all part of a system designed to shepherd younger civilizations toward sustainable progress. The subspace distortions from the echo suddenly intensified, threatening to tear reality apart. But as they did, the defense grid's pattern shifted again. The quantum resonance created by the platforms began to harmonize with the echo's frequencies. The echo isn't our enemy, Sarah revealed, watching as understanding dawned in the Frex ship's behavior patterns. It's the galaxy's immune system, responding to the disease of unchecked technological growth. Humanity found a way to work with it, not against it, to become part of the natural order instead of trying to dominate it. The corrupted consciousness patterns in the Frex ships began to dissolve, but instead of being destroyed, they transformed, integrating with the defense grid's harmonious frequencies. The ships themselves started powering down their weapons, their crews finally understanding what they had been misusing all these centuries. Your ancestors, Tarlin's mental voice was filled with awe. They turned their own apparent extinction into a lesson, a way to show other species that survival doesn't come from technological dominance. It comes from learning to be part of something greater, Sarah finished. The quantum resonance had spread throughout the solar system now, creating a symphony of information and energy that even the echo could not disrupt. Humanity didn't die out. We evolved into a legacy that could only be understood when species were ready to work together. The subspace distortions began to fade as the echo responded to the harmony being created. The Frex ships, their stolen technology now transformed by true understanding, took up positions alongside the defense platforms. Ancient enemies became partners in maintaining the balance humanity had designed. Sarah felt the last pieces of the protocol settling into place in her mind, no longer a burden of hidden knowledge, but a guide for the future. She wasn't just humanity's last survivor. She was the first of a new kind of human, one who could bridge the gap between what her species had been and what they had chosen to become. The game of technological one-upmanship is over, she announced to the assembled fleet. Now the real work begins, learning to grow together, in harmony with the very forces we once thought were our destroyers. She looked out at the stars, seeing them not as territory to be conquered, but as points of light in an infinite dance of cooperation and progress. Humanity's greatest legacy wasn't their technology. It was their final choice to become part of that dance, to transform their knowledge from a source of conflict into a foundation for unity. The last human protocol was complete, and the next chapter in the galaxy's story was just beginning.